lead the charge in. The follow-through is there for the rest of this team.
Level 6s for GAM Esports. Get ready for Zeros to recall. Get ready for Levi to path into the bottom lane. We are going to see them try to attack around that area of the map once the levels come through. All they have to do is survive the early laning power that J-Team have drafted.
Is this going to be a Kled mid for
Could
Kiaya?
well be.
It definitely could be up against Lucian. It's a higher lethality matchup, actually, than the Akali if he's able to consistently land Bear Trap on a rope, but also could be very volatile early, and
That's it.
that's sweet. That's what we're going for. Kled mid. We just saw the Doinby game, basically the guy who felt like he invented Kled mid in pro play. Now we have Kiaya picking it up.
Now, I do think that this mid lane, very volatile, as we said here. The problem for Kled in this matchup is that he's not going to have the same sort of jungle support, especially in the early levels. So I don't think this is a Kled like you would see a lot in top lane, where you go for level 3 all-in trades and max out use of your W here, just because you do have to be careful of Hana's Elise. But you definitely do have power, especially around level 6. Just to vacate that mid lane, go for a Tiamat, and start collapsing on these side lanes.
We'll see if they can make that one happen. You got the lineups on your screen one more time right here. GAM Esports hoping to find their first win of the group stage here at Worlds 2019. J-Team found themselves topping the group so far. On to Summoner's Rift we go to close out this group for the day. Of course, 2 more games to follow this one, but we'll see what the records end up being. Lots of one-on-one score lines for the squads. We'll see if it's a 4-way tie or some striation here as J-Team and GAM face off.
And looking at this day as a whole, this was definitely one of the more unknown matchups in terms of who would be the favorite. Especially because it's hard to kind of figure out how strong the LMS is going to be at this World Championship. We know that Flash Wolves was kind of the gold standard for so many years, except last year we had Flash Wolves, who narrowly missed getting out of their group, and then we had 2 other LMS teams who both went 0-6. Only 4 teams have gone 0-6 in group stage, and 2 of them were last year from the same region. And then when Flash Wolves doesn't qualify for Worlds because most of their team moved away, you almost expected J-Team to come in and be the same. However, I feel like J-Team was one of those teams who consistently was good in the LMS, but could never quite get over the finish line to make it to Worlds. So in a lot of ways, not only can they try and get some LMS redemption, they can also kind of prove to themselves that they can compete at the world level.
Yeah, if you look all the way back to when they, turned the banner to J-Team back in 2016, they had a fantastic summer split. Their first split, absolutely phenomenal, but they have always been denied, and FoFo's been right there with them. Because this guy's always been getting hyped in the mid lane. We say, wait for those international events, FoFo's going to be there, he's going to shock the world, and then J-Team consistently dropped the ball in playoffs. So to now have FoFo get his chance on the international stage is going to be really telling for him, who has been trying to prove himself for so long.
Proved himself well so far. Now fighting into the bottom side. Ignite's already on, but he's going to be able to kite backwards, and Lilv's going to be just fine as the blows trade, but looks like advantage over to GAM.
Teleport versus cleanse in the bottom lane as well. So if Lilv can get some of his health back, that will actually end up being a lane advantage, that the all-in threat has been burned by Slay without actually burning any summoner spells on J-Team.
Syndra in the bot lane too, a lot of times can struggle to get pressure in those early levels. I do think you have to spend a lot of mana if you do want to push out these waves.
Whoa, into the stealth though, as he's going to let Zeros walk away. Gets the last Q, but that is a flash for nothing.
I suppose Rest didn't expect Zeros to level the W right there, but really ambitious to try and go in for that kill. And now without a flash too, can be very vulnerable. Now Hana, only level 2 here.
There. Walk away, but yeah, the Q gave it away. The location was known, but Levi is able to slink back in his own jungle, kills this ward, knows that he's spotted on this one, and instead it's going to be Hana going top side.
No teleport on Zeros. Yes, he does have W, but if Hana wanted to go for a gank there, he could have tried to put Zeros in a really difficult spot. Unwilling to risk it, though.
It's really hard for Rest, too, on the GP to actually step forward and help him put down damage, especially with Zeros' maneuverability in top lane, but he's been chunked out enough. This could be possible.
All right, gonna go for some damage here. That's the cloak now down, as Hana's got to wait around for this timeout, and Rest can just play towards the front, lands the Q, flash into the cocoon. That's gonna be first blood claimed for Rest.
That was such good coordination between Hana and Rest. Yes, It felt over-ambitious by Rest to burn that flash early, but it got enough damage down onto Zeros that it burned his teleport, and now they've killed him without him being able to recall to catch this wave.
I also think there was so much room, though, for Zeros to just step back. He knew Hana very likely be on that top side of the map, and there was a huge wave pushing in, so now he's been denied so much.
Dismounted, needs one more auto attack, just gets Scarlet, time to ignite! FoFo can't get out! The rope pulls him back in and he burns to death!
A sick 1v1 right there from Kiaya. He knew that there was no support coming in from Hana, so he could take that 1v1. We were saying in the draft that he probably wouldn't have that window, but with Elise showing on the top side of the map, he shows just how insane this champion can be.
This is exactly what I was looking for out of mid lane Kled. The high volatility. FoFo, a split second from getting the solo kill, but once it's remounted, he's got to turn tail and run. Doesn't dodge that bear trap on a rope, and he pays for it.
39 health remaining before
one
the
auto.
remount. Yeah, one auto would have done him in. He guessed right, and the solo kill comes through. Not losing more than one summoner, but FoFo burning both. Ouch.
And remember now that FoFo has lost his flash around the time that Kiaya and Levi in the next couple minutes are going to be taking over to 6, so have to keep in mind the continued kill threat around that mid lane on a Lucian with no summoner spells.
Secret Service minion right there locks in that hook. That was actually going to be a lot of damage to Nautilus if it did go through.
Yeah, it
be okay.
really feels like both of these teams came out of the gate throwing big punches. The amount of early summoner spell usage is much higher than we've seen so far at the World Championship. We've seen basically every game today come down to a Baron play or some late game decision. And this game, with the early summoner spell usage, kind of had the potential to do that in such a way, but because Kiaya had the lane and Rest and Hana had it in the top lane, we are still at even gold.
Yeah, we'll keep watching this too, because J-Team is usually not a squad that plays super active in the early game trying to kill you. Hana actually one of the lowest jungle proximities in the LMS entirely. His lanes just dominated. They were up over 10 CS in basically every single matchup throughout the regular season. And even the other day against Fun plus Phoenix, this squad won through team fighting. It wasn't through superior early game. It came down to 4 major team fights around objectives where Lilv and FoFo outplayed their opponents. So if they are on even footing, J-Team have a lot of good things to look forward to later in the game.
Right now it's the wave clear game, though. You mentioned looking good in the late game, so sitting around, maybe not the worst thing in the world. Looking out the bottom side, small CS difference in the advantage of GAM.
I think Levi will hit level 6 off of Krugs in the top lane, since he was able to catch actually a lot of experience and CS when Zeros died to that gank. So we'll see. I was kind of guesstimating his. I can see his XP bar. It's going to be close. Yeah. Krugs is the highest XP camp in the game. Come on.
The little ones are so little.
Please.
He's going to get it.
Oh! He's okay, but he's going to walk up in a range of a minion. Now, minions have less sight range than XP range, I believe.
Yeah.
So Levi can
trying to leash the 6.
There's also
he showed.
There's no flash on Rest too, so
he showed. He showed on that.
Yep.
He doesn't know for sure that he showed, but he's getting pinged. So
yeah, they know.
Yep.
Rest knows. Rest has oranges for the fear, which is absurdly telegraphed, so we can time that perfectly.
And this is where Rest is respecting the possibility for the gank. You see that giant minion wave, let it come back to your tower. He's going to try to clear the minions before they reach the tower to try and lessen the possibility of a dive here, and I think he's done a good enough job. It shouldn't really be possible.
They do know he's flash this low, and that was what happened very early on in the game. They even roamed over Kiaya a bit into the river, but I think a level 6 Gangplank with the Elise being MII is good restraint by GAM to not go for the dive.
Exactly, and you even saw Hana considering walking up through that lane to be there for a potential counter gank. Now they see Levi on that ward hovering around this mid lane where, again, there's no flash. So all J-Team have to do is wait out for the next, minute and a half around this mid lane, let the flashes return, and then all of a sudden the kill threat is going to be much, much reduced. If anything, I think GAM's best bet, once that flash returns for FoFo, is just to use Kiaya. He'll have his Tiamat on his next base, push out those lanes, and then look for collapses on top lane or bottom lane.
As you mentioned, the junglers again, or a second ago, both of them were kind of spotted. With the blue buff was handed out to FoFo. They missing pinged the left side jungle, knew that Hana was over on the western side. Of course, now he's come down to the bot. They had his recent location, and Levi seemed to be spotted by a ward on his way through as well, but now lurking through again. Looking for that first paranoia, that first ultimate. FoFo still missing flash, but unless the ult can follow through from Kiaya, that might still not be a kill.
Yeah, after the early flurry of summoner spells, I feel like everyone has definitely calmed down.
Yeah.
At this point, I feel like J-Team is just waiting for Levi to use his ultimate. We know that J-Team is comfortable with extended laning phases, and they're confident in their ability to win late game team fights. So I think for them to lose this game would be if they're trying to make aggressive plays that get counter-ganked by Nocturne. So I think unless GAM initiates something, J-Team is making the right play.
And as for GAM initiating something, well, Zeros, his TP is going to be up in just a few more seconds here. Rest still going to be waiting on that for the next couple minutes, so there's definitely room now to try and put a deep board in that bottom lane, make a play happen themselves. But if you look around that Syndra bot side, there is this, very defensive control ward to spot out any sort of flanking vision, any sort of flanking ward there. So
support see each other. A lot of CC now put down. Ignite on Koala as well. The ult coming through. He's first to level 6, but Syndra's already moved on over. Decent damage here, but here's the paranoia. 4 members of J-Team waiting around. Kled dives in, but he doesn't have any backup. It's just 2 members near him, so it's going to be the ult coming in, but right back out he goes. No deaths.
GAM are just forcing so hard around that river right there, trying to find the kill. Koala doesn't even have to use the flash to escape from that one. While Ignite goes down, the 2 major initiation cooldowns do fall as well. Now, even though those spells have gone down, GAM still feel comfortable starting this up because they have TP advantage, but Rest can always support with that cannon barrage.
This is definitely a little risky, but they did force the recalls. They're going.
Flash Q's gonna land. Cocoon comes in. Hana, though, does have to watch out for this one. He's rooted in place, repels, by a few seconds. There's the flash of the wall. Nicely played. Hana does get out. The Ocean Drake does go to GAM.
Kind of an odd series of events, but overall, the aggression for GAM does give them an advantage. They were able to get Koala to recall, and that gave them the numbers advantage with which Levi to start Dragon. I think a lot of teams, after using Kled and Nocturne ult in the river unsuccessfully, would not then stay in that river, but it pays off for them.
And you also consider they have a lot of, items coming through. The Warrior for Levi was the big one, and going into that fight, Hana had not actually completed the Echoes in the jungle there, so GAM were trying to force around windows where they had the teleport global, they had itemization as well. I just am a little concerned for them that it wasn't able to work out here, because as we said, it's huge cooldown windows that now it's really hard to force anything, especially on this Nocturne, without that ulti.
And you mentioned itemization. FoFo's rushed Ninja Tabby here, knowing that his primary opponents are Kled, Nocturne, right? Double physical damage, plenty auto attack heavy, so it's going to be even harder to knock him down. Now, I am curious what happens in maybe 8 to 10 minutes when lanes start breaking down. Do you try to get Zeros and the Akali to be the one chasing him as your primary magic damage, and those Tabby does nothing?
Well, I do think GAM have a lot of good options later on in the game. You already mentioned sort of the side lane where, Akali is going to do very well up against the likes of the Gangplank. Kled, too, with a couple items, should be able to win a lot of 1v1s in side lane. And then, even if you go further and you look, what does a 5v5 team fight look like in 10 to 20 minutes? Well, GAM have so much dive power, and I don't think J-Team's peel is super reliable. They do have the hook, they do have the flay, maybe a stun from Syndra, but when GAM can come in with so much ability to not actually be CC'd with the Nocturne ulti, with the Kled charging in as well, it definitely gives them a lot of sticking power to dive into the backline.
It's going to be a Herald taken without any really awkward looks at all. J-Team grabbed that one, no problem. They got 2 minutes to summon it. They'll give 300 gold to somebody on their squad as they continue to play the slow laning phase. Equal in gold, and that's with Gangplank printing a bit of extra money for himself. But regardless, a fairly slow mid-game as you talked about. The Ocean Drake still helping GAM. The Rift Herald should break the gold a little bit towards J-Team's favor.
Yeah, I do find it very interesting because what Under just mentioned about GAM having a bunch of tools is absolutely true, right? They have so much engage potential. Which I personally want to see them use it early, only because I kind of feel like J-Team's mid and late game macro is going to be relatively strong. And with them getting this Rift Herald now, if they can break the first turret and start moving around, that's big. But here comes Levi.
The flash follow already there. The Flay's still gonna push him backwards though, and this is gonna be now the chase in. Livy's gonna drop down. Zin grabs that kill. Stopwatch here.
It is.
Still right on top of him. Anchor's gonna find someone else though instead. Into the air goes Elise, but comes back down in a second.
What?
Right on top and wants to kill Levi, but he has a stopwatch too. Ignite claims that kill. The shield comes in. Levi refuses to die, and it's GAM taking a 2 for 0.
They're going back in.
Goes in for a third. Forcing FoFo backwards. He stays alive though. Now comes second hook. Not going to land there either, but FoFo dangerously close to death. Kiaya might be able to remount, gets away from the flay, but look at the willingness to dive. Again, FoFo low. Angel's not going to land yet again as the TPs come back in.
Zeros!
More for Zeros. Jumps right forward, grabs the third kill. The stopwatch for Slay keeps him alive, but the flay is going to bring him right back in, and he will drop. Now Zeros ults backwards to the blast and he's going to get out. 3 for 1 GAM.
Absolutely unreal there from GAM, surviving with so little HP for so long. But those are the engage tools. They used them earlier rather than later, and boy, did they make it pay off.
They have like how many stopwatches do they have? because it felt like every single stopwatch in the game got burned in that fight, aside from Rest, who was just farming in the top lane. And that is a big advantage for GAM. They have all the tools, and this was a moment when they used them. Look how far away Kled can start this fight from, as Levi ends up getting the fear that allows Kaisa to go in. But here, at this point, they can just keep diving and diving, and surely Ender. This was a misclick by Elise.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Elise is going back in, trying to find this kill on towards Levi. Maybe he thinks he can finish it off with the Q.
Yeah, he's
like, it's absolutely unreal. And then this whole time, Zeros was channeling Recall to come in for the teleport underneath the tower as GAM body blocked the entire culling there on towards Levi, and Slay connects hook after hook after hook. Even at the start of the fight, Slay used his hook on a wall just to close the gap so he could pop that ultimate and end up picking up all these kills.
One of the most extended turret dives you're going to see.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, the person who died at the start of the fight got to teleport back and then force a stopwatch from the enemy support and eventually kill him. So, wow, that was ridiculous.
That was fun. I want more of those, as we still have a tied game in gold right here.
You know what, Phreak?
Yeah.
That fight was so long that we saw the fight, we saw the replay, and now it can happen again.
Yes!
Because Nocturne ult is back up.
Perfect!
And Infernal Drake just spawned as well here, so you definitely know both teams going to have an eye on that as it does spawn up. Now, one thing we do have to look at coming into this kind of a Drake is who controls the bushes around the mid lane and the river, and right now that goes in favor for GAM. That makes it so much harder for J-Team to actually enter into the river, and because you look at it, they don't really have a tank. The Thresh is not really going to walk into the river by himself because you instantly get picked off by a Nocturne. It's really hard to face check into this.
Hana throws a Spiderling that blows up, tries to get a bit of vision and a rush, but there's no one around. Ult's gonna come across, they're gonna land everything. This is not looking good for the port. Thresh right there, they flay and leave. But the first damage is gonna come across. 1 for 0 so far, Livy forced to run backwards. Not the Drake kill just yet. Culling means a willingness to re-engage here. Bit of damage into Kiaya, as Rest has come down alongside Zeros.
Even though they only got 1 kill onto Koala there, I feel like this is such a better team comp for GAM than what they played on day 1.
Yeah.
You're seeing how many tools they have and how willing they are to use them. Even though the initiations aren't necessarily clean, the ferocity with which they are trying is giving them an edge.
It's just decisive, right? They see J-Team split with a couple members bot side, a couple members above that Drake, and they make the play. Now Rest in trouble.
He's trying to get away, but the stopwatch gives him 2 seconds, and the auto's gonna come through regardless. A shutdown to the mid lane. That's 2 unanswered kills for GAM, is an easy walk away for Slay.
And they continue to control. Look at the river right now. Like, it's just absolutely dominated by GAM as they find yet another kill right here. And now all you do is wait for the cooldowns one more time, continue to force these fights, because for GAM, it's so easy to find these initiations where you have the numbers advantage. Even in that situation where 5 members of J-Team wanted to contest around the Drake, well, J-Team were split up. So it makes it very easy for GAM, just press those R keys, immediately find the initiations. We're gonna see it again around bottom lane when those cooldowns come up. We're gonna see it again in 4 minutes when the Infernal spawns again. This is going to be a constant thing from GAM, and it's really hard to deal with if you are J-Team playing this composition.
We'll see what comes in next time around, as FoFo's very willing to keep fighting. Chunk on a Kiaya, walks him back. This is a battle that will continue for a while. Double Drake picked up equal gold on these teams. Actually, sorry, it's broken apart since those last few kills, so about a 2,000 gold lead for GAM's side, which makes this group very exciting. The initial read coming in was Fun plus someone, you're not sure who, but the result goes this way. You've got a 4-way tie at 1-1.
That'd be
fun.
That would be very, very fun. Fun plus, we'd have every...
Please keep going, Jatt.
Yeah,
No,
here comes Levi.
It's my turn to talk yet again, and Slay is just that. But Hana might jump down on Levi yet again. This time he's going to take the backwards approach, and a flash into Levi gets away from the flay.
And for the purpose of this game, I'm very glad that happened, because we've done the last 10 minutes talking about how the relentless aggression of GAM is giving them this advantage, and the way the J-Team fights back to that is kind of the next conversation I think we're going to have. In this instance, it was because they actually struck first, rather than waiting until they can only see 600 units in front of them because of Nocturne ultimate wasn't working. So Hana actually found a window to go for a gank there.
Yeah, and you saw the team effort there as well in the 30 seconds to a minute leading up to that play as Rest in trouble.
He's being towered over right now. No flash, has a Hex Drinker though. And that might be enough to stop this push, but a 1/3 HP Gangplank can still be very much threatened. Hana forces the blast plan away, Zero stays alive, but it's still a recall force on a Gangplank without teleport.
Yeah,
and stops it.
And J-Team, for that play in the bottom lane, I think what was so important was going as a team and clearing out vision through the river, making sure FoFo could be the first one to rotate. And now that the spells are coming back up for GAM, it's going to be about playing more defensive League of Legends here, making sure Zeros doesn't find a solo kill, but this is just painful.
Yeah, Rest missed, I think, literally every CS on that wave right there. The threat of the Akali dive, and look, a kill or not, that's still 100 gold denied off your opponent.
Yeah, definitely some side lane pressure. You can see already itemizing Hex Drinker, but Rest without stopwatch, being the victim of that dive mid lane, definitely playing with a lot of respect. And now we're at that moment where GAM has all their ultimates up in a few seconds. There's a little bit of a tick on Levi's ultimate, and then they're probably going to run another play.
Right into the mid lane, but Hana's already there. The burst damage, though, it might just take him down as FoFo falls. It's trade kill, though, as the Nocturne's dropped the flash. Keeps Kiaya barely safe. Only gets played back. Flash that's not going to land, though.
Sure, maybe.
And that means he's completely safe. Here comes the teleport. It's Zeros with ult up. Respect the Akali, he's rich.
It turns into a 1-for-1 trade at the end there, but you have to believe getting all those spells out of GAM is going to be an overall win there for J-Team. I actually loved seeing Koala be the first one to move towards this middle lane as well. As we see the game sort of pick up in pace a little bit, these squads try to find more and more fights, it's going to be up to the supports and the junglers moving around the map in tandem to be able to make it happen.
Picks up the blue, walks away, no problem.
Yeah, and Zeros is free to do that because he knows FoFo is dead. He sees two people bottom lane. He's got his ultimate, he's got his flash, so he can just go for stuff like that. Watching this play again, literally the second the ultimate is available, like within 0.5 seconds, Levi uses it again. But with that type of timing, it means they're going to overforce a little bit. And this is very close to being a double kill if Kiaya is not able to make that escape and quick sidestep. But that's the type of stuff that J-Team might be kind of getting used to. Either they have to attack in these very small windows while the Nocturne ultimate is down, or they have to kind of sit at their turrets and wait for GAM to jump on.
And I think talking about how they make that next play does come back to supports fundamentally. In my eyes,
the willingness to aggress once again. But, that is a flash that does nothing.
We're just going back
Nocturne
in one more time.
Press your buttons on cooldown, everybody, right into that jungle yet again. But Levi can't find the target. They're all grouped up for them together. Now the top laners come by as well. Kiaya, actually it's Zeros having to jump over the wall. And that's the ulti burn for escapes. That's a lot less threat on the Akali.
Two big cooldowns blown right before the Infernal Drake spawns. Now J-Team don't have many flashes.
Look to the front line, but Slay again goes down, finds the backline stun, stopwatch, looking to stay alive. Looking at the re-engage though, 5v4. Hana dropped low, and this is gonna be Zeros. Forced one away, does not have an ulti to claim those kills, so has to run the barrel chain. And not gonna land it either.
How does J-Team go from here? Because they still have Nocturne, Kled, Akali, ult, all down, Slay dead. They can go for the drink, but Rest is stuck in mid lane.
Two autos, he needs one more. Almost the kill finally. Takes him down, the killing spree for Zin.
Still looks like J-Team starting up this Infernal Drake. GAM are rushing straight over for that bear. Maybe not going to quite make that call. Trading 1-for-1 in the end, but they didn't have the vision inside of that river. So while they do get that flashy kill from Zin at the very end, jumping on forward, they lose the objective, and that's going to be a win for J-Team.
Such an aggressive game. Every time an engage tool is up, someone is pressing forward to do it. It's a lot of fun to watch. You got to know when one of these teams will settle down and who can kind of create the counterpunch, really. If you know your opponent's willing to go in, how much of a bait can you set up, I suppose? Right now, Zeros unanswered in the bottom lane, but doesn't know who they might be, puts a ward down. I'd hit the turret, but someone's TPing over, so never mind.
Definitely picking up the pace.
Yeah.
Now the question will be, we've kind of had this overarching conversation of the tournament of, is it going to be a slower meta? Are the games going to go longer? This is definitely a faster pace game, but it's staying pretty close, and I feel like J-Team's doing a decent job absorbing, so I can't wait to see how this one pans out.
Yeah, both squads have really strong skirmishing power. I think the ability to pump out a lot of damage really instantly, on-demand pick type CC. What I'm a little bit concerned with, seeing, that decision there, Rest TPing down into the bottom lane, now not having access to that global, when I think that GAM very easily can look to play 3 lanes. While this game is going to revolve around skirmishes a lot, we've seen Zeros be such a menace now bot side, and when his TP comes back up, all of a sudden he can play 2 sides of the map at the same time.
Yeah, and Rest is really pivotal for J-Team in this game.
Another
pivotal thing
that hook
is killing Slay, because he's the one that they're able to catch out as he's trying to move around for vision.
He's 2/3 of their kills. They're finding the openings at the very least, or he's still willing to go forward and gets caught out for it. Wow. This is great.
Yeah, so we've been over how GAM engages. They wait for Levi's ultimate, and they press all their buttons to go in. J-Team either gets picks like that, or I feel like Rest is incredibly key on the Gangplank. If he can layer his GP ultimate in the right spot, he makes it very lethal for GAM to chase through, and if he can actually get a double or triple barrel chain off in these very chaotic dark team fights, that could be it, because where the gold distribution is going to GAM right now is terrifying. With Kaisa having the 302 scoreline, it does seem to favor GAM, but if GP and the rest of J-Team plays it well, they still have a chance to come back.
And J-Team still do have those pick tools that we just saw, and as J-Team figure out where to assign their players inside of these lanes, I actually think FoFo should be the one going into these side lanes, you know, going up top lane, and let Lilv and Koala sit around mid lane with Elise. Think of all that pick power. Whenever Slay is trying to walk into the river and put down vision, you have so many tools to try and really power forward with this 3v3 around the middle lane, and on top of that, I do think Lilv is going to be superior in terms of wave clear mid lane too. So having him mid is going to be the best option here for J-Team.
Right now, J-Team making their way through this top river. 2 minutes of the Cloud Drake spawns, but vision over Baron probably as or more important right now, as there are still some little pieces of wards in the back line as they drop these control wards off, and it's certainly a very blue ward jungle right now, river.
TP going to be returning for Zeros in just under a minute here too, so that's when I think GAM have more tools, sort of put the foot on the gas right now. But the problem for them is that they don't really have vision around this Baron, so that needs to be their first passing to clear out all the control wards in river, which is going to be hard unless they group up as sort of 4 or 5 members around that area, just because it's so scary to try and face check into the fog of war here. So that's going to be the first pass. Second pass is applying pressure with Zeros bottom lane and trying to force J-Team into a potential 5 versus 4 round Baron. That means potentially starting up that objective and looking for the turn.
Oh, wave shoved back and forth. This ward in the back of the pit. They didn't see it get put down, of course, the stealth ward, so they have to sweep it out. Right now they know that at least it's not getting rushed down, but the red buff stolen away by Hana. Blast plant instead of taking the lantern, much to the chagrin of this poor Thresh. But out they walk, and again, this Baron not sneakable. Bot lane, though, pressure here still for Zeros, and that TP is still 2 minutes away for Rest. He talked about playing the side lanes and spreading him apart. That teleport, of course, used 3 minutes ago. Now Rest can't join his team if there is a play topside. Yeah,
there's so much pressure in J-Team's favor, as Ender was just alluding to, the steps that to go through to try and set up here. But for now, J-Team really is just trying to withstand all that time until Rest's teleport can come back up.
Look at the power of GAM. I think they want to make a move on Baron because you have level 16 Zeros. You have the finished second item, GA2 for that added utility in fights, and the full 3-item Kaisa now. Trying to get that triple evolve here, so GAM are so loaded.
Box 4, he's going to flash them right back into his team, though. This could be Levi overstepping the bounds, but first a kill comes through. Thresh drops down, 1 for 0 to the back lane goes Kiaya, gets dismounted, has to run away, but Syndra damage. Stopwatch keeps him alive. Well played there, the 1 for 0. Zeros on the side has to be respectful, puts the ult, gets out.
We thought they used all their stopwatches in the bottom lane, but clearly Kiaya hadn't used one yet on his way towards a Guardian Angel. That would have been a 1-for-1. Actually a pretty good job of J-Team to kite back from that unstoppable engage, but again, Marines get something out of it.
Yeah, only able to get that 1 kill, though I can't help but feel like GAM wanted to convert that into even more right there. Only able to get the kill onto Koala, so like had that been a Hana, for instance, you can very easily turn that one around. Now, in their favor is Zeros had actually used his pressure to walk all the way up into that top lane, so he still holds on to that teleport. But now we go back to that same process. GAM, get the vision, deny it away from J-Team, wait for cooldowns again, and it's going to continue to push this game into a further and further late game state.
Next few power spikes coming through, of course. Titanic Hydra now done for Kiaya, so increased damage here in this Kled. Level 15, pretty close to 16, but doesn't have it just yet. Trying to defend this top side turret. No ult, but you know, gonna be paying enough respect to him that FoFo only hits the turret, not really him so much, as the wave is cleared by Titanic. And that's gonna stay alive. GAM 2-0 in turret so far this game. Cloud Drake has spawned. Almost anyone could solo at the state of the game. Anyone but the supports, really. See when someone takes a look down there.
Big item power spikes coming through, though. Zeros completing his Zhonya's. Nashor's Tooth being completed on Zin. The game has stayed relatively close, but with the scaling of Kaisa, just compare that over to a Zhonya's Lilv Syndra, or even just the 2-item Lucian. GAM is more than 3,000 gold ahead in effective power if they can find another good fight.
And they continue to just load utility in that. You already mentioned the Zhonya's for Zeros, but the GA2 for Levi. Now a stopwatch from Zin. He's going to be working on a Zhonya's Hourglass himself, which against a Syndra ultimate, against the burst coming through from Elise plus Lucian jumping onto you, that's going to immediately give you the power to stay alive in these fights. And on top of that, you also have the cleanse, which is going to be more favorable, I can't help but feel like, in these combat situations than a TP on Lilv. Because Lilv is never going into this bottom lane. He's only going to be using that summoner to get back onto the map, farm a little bit more. It's very unlikely that it turns into much, and there you see it right there. He comes mid lane to push, but it's GAM with control over the river.
Thresh finally did hit level 16 during that last mini wave, but you still have Zeros a full level above him there on that top side, waiting for the rank 3 ultimates for several players here. And in that brush, the Spiderling's going to spot this one out. Actually, quite a few of them, and once again, look at that play. Stun coming across, but here comes the dive yet again. Levi leading the charge, and it's just under the turret for J Team. Redemption Heal staying alive.
These fights are so difficult for GAM because that mid lane outer turret is still alive. If that's down, it becomes so easy. But now they're out a lot of spells. J Team still holding on to them all, so it's J Team in control.
Traditionally, Baron setups are done through mid lane priority. That's why oftentimes people complain about ARAMs happening. That is not what's happening here. And I can see GAM definitely has the ability to find success for that. If they're able to actually funnel J-Team towards their blue buff rather than towards the mid-turret, it'll work. But if J-Team's able to retreat into that mid-turret, they will be able to stop these engages.
That barrel slow on a Zeros forced the flash out, and it gave the mid priority needed to knock down that turret. So J-Team actually now have the station to set up these Baron plays.
Yeah, and that's the really curious thing about this game is we know that GAM has so many engage tools, but this is where J-Team is going to be more comfortable. Most of GAM's games were over by now. One of those 17 Nocturne ultimates broke the game wide open. That hasn't happened yet, and I want to see how they respond to that moment.
Especially because J-Team, a team that just out-team fought FPX to find that upset win back on day one. So this team, while they don't have the same team fight power, their ability to maybe play around the Fog of War, set up 4 picks, and convert that into a major objective, like the Baron that's been virtually uncontested for the last 10 minutes on the map. It's all going to come down to control over River and then punching GAM whenever they make a single mistake. This has happened before when Slay is trying to put down Vision himself, and those deep wards will give J-Team the information needed to set up those types of moves in advance.
Banshee's Veil, of course, done for Lil V. I want to point your attention to the minion kill counters on this part of the map right now. 185 CS for Nocturne. You mentioned in the pregame that Levi has the highest jungle CS share of any jungler at Worlds here, and Nocturne really not the crazy endgame carry, right? This isn't lethality Nocturne where his first auto might actually one-shot someone. It's fairly utility-based. The GA is in there, but that's, I mean, you'd rather have that money on someone like an Akali or a Kaisa or a Lucian or a Syndra who are getting more farm here and are going to be bigger factors in this game.
Yeah, I haven't been tracking it precisely because there's been a few things happening in the game, but I think he was around 140 a long time ago. And his farm has actually slowed down here, which again is a point in the game that GAM isn't that used to being. I think overall, yes, his farm is high, but all of GAM's farm is high because they've actually had a lot of map control. J-Team has needed to stay fairly grouped. Everyone except for GP kind of has to be grouped every time this Nocturne gets used. And they're not grouped this time.
Yet again, Stopwatch blocks a lot of damage up, but they're still found in isolation on the Thresh. That's Koala going down. Another fight continues now as they dive force with that turret, but again, it keeps some space alive there, and the rest of the right just back right out, but it's still 5v4. The re-engage might come through. They found it for Syndra, but the first kill comes through on Nautilus, and now they're waiting on the corpse. Zeros does not have a way out. 2-1 to J-Team.
It happens in the same spot every time, but this time, GAM cannot find more. And they end up getting turned straight on towards Zin, going on the rest.
Has to do it for the barrel, but he can't knock them down in time. All to the side. Stopwatch is traded back and forth, but Hana, can he drop in time to flash around? They trade kills 1 for 1. And now to the backside. It's too much. It's too forward for Rest. Kills himself jumping over the wall.
And the top lane tower is still alive, so J-Team cannot force any further. This entire game has just been even fight after even fight, and no one can get any objectives.
Watching this back one more time, J-Team is a little bit split. Hana's on the left side of the blue buff, so it is a time for them to engage. But the Nocturne ult into a stopwatch, that doesn't do damage. All their cooldowns get burnt on just Koala, and then as Zeros dives through, not only are they getting damage onto him, The rest of GAM are sitting in that level 16 GP ultimate. And then when they re-engage, Syndra GP gets a bunch of AoE in, and that's how J-Team turned the first half of this fight.
Exactly. The terrain right there makes it so awkward for GAM to actually exit with both the GP and the Syndra. But then it's Zin who just gets excited on towards Rest here. You know, he has the red buff. He's able to put down a lot of damage and then holding on to the ultimate to dive on forward. Now he flashes on towards Hana and gets the Q off at the last second. So he is able to trade 1-for-1. Well, then on the top side, it's a 2v1, and that goes the way of GAM.
Likely a Baron saving play by Zin there. 4,500 damage during that fight, but you can see the GP ult.
We're doing it again!
Great Lantern, though. Put it down in time, knew what the target was. Kled charged the team forward. Forcing a flash, actually, out of Hana, but he was getting chased.
What's the saying? If at first you don't succeed, try 18 more times.
Yes.
I think that's the motto that GAM is going for, because they're not changing what they're doing at all.
Just keep flipping the coin and eventually it'll be heads, Jatt.
The Cloud Drake is still there. The mid turret is still there. They're not using side lane pressure to set things up. They are just brute forcing this over and over again. And the crazy thing is, it might work. There's a chance they can still win this game as the gold is still stuck at 1,500.
They're finally going to go for this Cloud Drake that's been on the map for
5 minutes.
forever.
About 5 minutes, because it was going to summon another elemental before Elder. This time around, finally goes down. Cloud Drake, though, actually meaningful for GAM, by the way, a team that should be able to play side lanes. Getting back to your team, pretty useful.
And just the movement speed going to be very helpful regardless here. I actually think the best part about this, though, is just making sure that Elder Drake spawns.
Yeah.
Because if you examine the terrain around where we've been seeing all our fights happen, and then around, you know, the entrance into the river from JT's side of the map, it's way more open down on this bottom side of the map. So it's so much easier for GAM to actually find these chases in. There's a lot more open space to be able to close the gap and then also retreat. So they won't get caught in those same tight corridors that JT was able to use against them and turn around.
The next few power spikes are coming through, of course. That stopwatch very much broken now on FoFo's side, but holding on to it. I feel like GA is so far away, you'd almost rather sell it for control ward slots. Like, this is maybe not a required item for him, but regardless, still going towards likely Phantom Dancer next item. Has a bunch of crit chance here, 65%, which is really solid there for this Lucian. So if he can stay alive, he's gonna have a lot of backline damage, but you can look over the Kaisa, the other marksman in this game, and it's a solid 4-item Kaisa, so plenty of damage output available for these backlines.
Yeah, it has felt like Zin hasn't really been able to combo the engage with the rest of his team. That's potentially the thing that's missing for GAM, but they're in all these really tight corridors, and it would potentially be suicide for him to be diving in. But if he ever does find that window, this Kaisa is really, really powerful.
Exactly. It's really hard to make that choice, to press that R button, because ultimately he's the consistent DPS. If he goes down, it gets rough. It's like going to take a lot right there. Yeah,
down to 1,000 HP off the single hook, and the culling not that. Oh, that is a blue stolen away, Lilv. Levi. Oof. He got it. It's pretty useful.
I don't know how you do that, Syndra. That's just a huge misplay. You should always save your W for a blue buff steal.
Yeah. Misplays happened, though. Hana, though, chunked to half HP. That's a couple of poke tools used there as well, and maybe recalls regardless. But now, look at this. Setting up onto the Baron already is GAM.
All right, slightly different. This time they're actually starting the Baron before the fight.
Here comes the re-engage. GP only going to kite out of it, but the low health bars could make things dangerous. Levi's going to lose the Guardian Angel. The re-engage comes across. There's time Zin can join in, but it's 2-for-1 so far, 3-for-1. It's all GAM so far, shutting down everybody as Rest runs. Might lose the Guardian Angel. That's pop now as well. This is scary, Zeros. Okay, stopwatch to buy a little bit more HP, but still trying to buy the time.
Oh no!
What are you doing? You gotta be kidding me. Rest finally burns down. The ace does come through.
GAM found the fight finally. They had to start the Baron to pull J-Team far enough away from their tower in order to close the gap, and they find the huge team fight victory. Now, though, without an AD carry or a Kled alive, they're unable to convert that into a Baron. Instead, they're just going to have to settle for these towers. But now that these towers are down, they can go for these fights with so much more ease.
If Zin doesn't die there, the game might actually be over. With how long the death timers are in this 37-minute fight. But watching this one more time, by starting the Baron, they end up actually giving themselves a bit more space because J-Team starts a bit further up and J-Team can't retreat to their turret. So that, I think, is why Zin feels confident. Look at him way over on the side. Just, hey, everyone forget about me until I fly in and then immediately go invisible. So he actually bided his time properly this fight. and didn't have to ult into a turret, so it was successful.
And coming into that fight, FoFo didn't have the stopwatch, didn't have the flash juice, so easy pickings. As they missed the spells initially, and now Zin is just sort of caught out to dry underneath the tower, able to burn him down in the end, but as you said, could have been so much more monumentally here in that game if he does stay alive.
And I got a slight slay for that one. Throws the Q too early. How many times has he played against a stopwatch? That timer hasn't changed in years in League of Legends, but under the stage lights, under the pressure of Worlds, miscounts it, throws the Q too early, meaning Kaisa takes aggro, no CC, the re-engage comes in yet again, and Lilv this time is the target. Flash the safety, but is it really? As Zin shows up, finds the damage and shields through all of it. 2 for 0, J-Team on the run, trying to stay alive, but they're not going to do that for long. It's a 5v2 now as Levi runs for his life, finds a little bit of damage, stunned up, finally does go down. But the 4v2 is still great, make it a 4v1 as Rest, the only one left alive, has to run back to his base.
If at first you don't succeed, try 18 more times, and it's going to work. We're up to 20, but GAM are finally in the base, and the death timers are too long. This should be the final push for GAM.
Gangplank has to try to somehow clear the minion wave and make the backdoor not happen. He's going to put barrel 1 down. There's number 2, knocks down most of the minions, but the damage output's still going to be pretty high. There's still a cannon minion there as well. Rest will do his best, but the turrets are going to fall. And GAM in a slugfest. Claim the final kill, almost under the base, knock down the Nexus. We've got a tied up group.
And that, my friends, is what we call a barn burner, because it was action throughout the entire game. 34 kills in 39 minutes. Every Nocturne ult used. That has got to be some type of record for number of Nocturne ults used in a game at Worlds.
That was just absolutely crazy to see them try the same thing over and over again, going so even for so long, but finally they find that initiation when they start up the Baron that baits J-Team in outside of their defensives. Then they can find the turn and break open the tower line to eventually set up for those fights to win every single time.
And there was so much back and forth during the game. I do want to credit GAM for this draft and also their willingness to commit to a game plan. They had so many tools to engage, and over and over and over and over and over again, J-Team couldn't quite deal with it until eventually they broke.
Eventually they did. It took several tries. We lost count midway through. Was it 16? Was it 20? We're not really sure, but